Before we get started, I just wanted to say that this whole weekend I wrote down everything that I wanted to say regarding Tim Pool's interview with Damien Echols. I do this so that I keep my train of thought. I know everything I want to say, and I don't have to worry about forgetting anything. I don't really like to ab lib. I don't like to forget things. I lose my train of thought. So that's why I do it. Anyways, I just finished writing everything I wanted to say just a little bit ago. I saved the file, I closed it, I restarted my computer, and when it came back on and I clicked on the file, everything was gone. Now, I sound calm, but rest assured, I'm angry as hell because I worked really hard on it. So that's where we are right now. So I'll do my best. It's going to be a condensed version. I'm probably going to forget things. I'm not going to say it the way I wanted to say it, but I'll do my best. So, you know, I was only going to talk about a half hour out of the 2 hours of the interview, anyways, at least what I thought was relevant. And the interview starts out the way that I thought it would, and that's with the innocence narrative. Damien Echols was wrongly convicted. He's innocent. The state wanted to put him on death row because they wanted to placate a few individuals. And that's Tim Pool's stance on that. He also had on his episode Cassandra Fairbanks. I think that's her name. Again, I don't have it in front of me, but I think that's her name. It's either that or Fairchild. All right, so I'm not gonna, lose my shit over whether I got her last name wrong. It's either Fairchild or Fairbanks. Okay. Cassandra though is her first name, and she is an activist and a journalist. And I want to go back and Tim he worked for Vice and Fusion TV, and now is doing this YouTube stuff and podcasts, and so I just wanted to say that. Anyways, back to it. They they go over the timeline of the West Memphis 3 case, which of course is the innocence fraud narrative. Jesse Miss Kelly was, you know, emotionally tortured into giving a confession, which is not true, but that's what, that was stated. Talked about how many years later the DNA tests have improved. Talked about getting released and how now they want to do this new, DNA testing. So, and Damien, he says that, if the state would just approve it, it would take 3 days and we would definitively know who committed the murders, which I'm not so sure about that, based on the conditions of where that evidence was, which it was submerged in muddy water. I don't know how much you can really get out of it other than inconclusive things like mtDNA. And the person that he believes is possibly responsible for this is a juvenile um, parole officer who was helping at the search at that time. He believes that that person might be responsible, and the law enforcement, the state, everyone from then to now is trying to cover it up, which is quite the grand conspiracy. So, Damien also talked about Jerry Driver, talked about how he would always harass poor Damien and other people in the West Memphis community because they were, they consider them trailer park trash. However, what Damien doesn't tell you was, well, he was arrested for sexual misconduct and burglary, that he had, that, he ran off with an ex-girlfriend and they caught him, and, well, That's how he ended up meeting Jerry Driver. And why would maybe Jerry take somewhat of an interest in, keeping a close eye on Damien? Oh, I don't know. Talking about the occult, talking about these rituals that are going on, talking about how they're doing animal sacrifices and how eventually, they're going to convert into human sacrifice. So I don't know. Damien planted it in their head. So of course they're going to pay attention. Now, do I believe everything Damien was saying to Jerry? No, not necessarily. But Damien's his own worst enemy here. And then, he talked about how there was three in this juvenile, task force. And again, going back to the guy that Damien is pointing at, well, he's a part of that. And so, when they discovered those poor kids, Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, Christopher Byers, this guy saw it and said, Damien finally done it. He finally hurt someone. Now, I'm not mentioning this guy's name just because I just don't think it's fair. Because now anyone who knows the case knows who I'm referring to. But I just don't want to say the name because it's not fair, especially with how other people in the past have just been utterly scrutinized, harassed, bullied, threatened. It's absolutely sickening. And what's interesting, now keep in mind, supporters and even the defense have, insinuated or outright said who they believe the killer or the murderer is. But it's the first time that I ever heard Damien refer to this person. Now, Damien didn't mention the person's name, but I know who he's talking about. Actually, refer to this person as possibly being involved. It's the first time. I mean, again, keep in mind, supporters, they go after everyone. They even went after Todd Moore, who it is an impossibility. He wasn't even in the same state. He was a truck driver, but that didn't stop them for, just jumping through these these ridiculous hoops, doing these mental gymnastics to try to point to him, which is just absurd. They did the same with Jerry Driver. They did the same with the individual I'm referring to now. I mean, anyone and everyone they've accused. Okay. That's kind of what conspiracy theorists do. They throw shit on walls and they see what sticks. They blame everyone except who actually is responsible. And that is, in both legally and factually, the people who were convicted by two different juries and by the same individuals in August 2011, despite maintaining their innocence, pled guilty and agreed that the state had evidence to convict them. Okay? And that's Damien Echols, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miskelly. I'm trying to think what else that was talked about, but that was like the most, to me, what I mentioned, that was the big thing. I try not to cover every podcaster or YouTube content creator that talks about the case and feeds into the Innocence Narrative, because if I did that, it would just be a carbon copy of the same stuff. That's why when I made my previous episodes, I just wanted to cover the facts of that, and I figured that would stand on its own. I just didn't want to, go after every creator that talked about it. But just the fact that Damien's on there and is talking about, this individual possibly being involved and that this is some ridiculous cover up. That one compelled me to talk about it. And the fact that it's done on such a popular channel by a guy in a black beanie who, in my opinion, is an idiot, because he never read the case files, he never read the court transcripts, he never read the appeals, he never read what every witness said, he never went and looked at the lab test results. And speaking of the lab, again, that also comes up. Damien, definitively, comes across and says that the hairs found were definitely, Terry Hobbs and David Jacoby, which is not true. it was mtDNA, and those hair sources couldn't be ruled out as Terry's or David Jacoby's, but it does not say that it was theirs. And there were other hair fibers that were just inconclusive. They don't know who it belonged to, so it could have belonged to anyone. They just didn't have enough. But see, Damien didn't want to talk about that. Damien didn't want to talk about a lot of things. One of the things that was also brought up was how someone should act when they're in court. That's something that Tim Pool brought up, and Damien said that he was a victim of because he made eye contact and he was confident. But what Damien didn't mention was how he gave the family the bird, the middle finger. Didn't talk about how he blew them kisses and was taunting them. Now, granted, I understand, sometimes people are going to microanalyze everything that you do. And so whether you keep your head down or whether, you look confident or whatever, I understand that. But I'm sorry, I don't know any innocent person that's going to fucking, taunt the family. I'm sorry, explain that one to me. And also explain to me, Damien, why you didn't bring that up. And to move along with this, one of the things I also thought that was pretty profound was, it should really explain the burden of proof that, someone like Cassandra has, and maybe Tim as well. I don't know, but Cassandra definitely, that she believed that there wasn't enough evidence to convict Alec Murdaugh. I mean, are you hearing me? So, oh, they didn't have enough to convict Alec Murdaugh. Oh, they didn't have enough to convict the West Memphis Three, even though two sets of juries did. So, anyways, that's enough of my rant. Again, I'm pretty angry because I had a lot more to say. But let me close with this. The truth is not democratic. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm not getting political. I'm not saying this is a Democrat or Republican thing, a conservative or a liberal thing. No, when I say the truth is not democratic, is that popular opinion does not set the standard for facts. For example, what I'm getting this from, that the truth is not democratic, was an episode of Penn and Teller bullshit that I watched a long time ago. And Penn and Teller, they had a rabbit, and the word that Penn used was that the truth is not democratic, and that, voting on the sex of that rabbit, even the popular vote does not, it does not indicate facts. So even if the popular opinion is that the rabbit is female, but the rabbit in fact is male, what should matter is it should not be the popular opinion. It should be the facts. And that's what we have with this case. And not just with this case, but many others. But in this case, we have popular opinion, the court of public opinion, thinking that the West Memphis Three that they're innocent. And they're not. The facts state otherwise. And it doesn't matter what documentarians think. It doesn't matter what a few journalists think. It doesn't matter what some clown who does comedy, it doesn't matter what he thinks. What should matter should always be the truth, and the truth is not always popular. And I'm learning in most cases in true crime, it never is. So, I'm going to end it here. Again, I don't know how this is going to come across. If I miss something, it's something that you thought that I should have covered, mention it in the comment section. And also, Roberta Glass and William Ramsey, they're going to be talking about this. And I'm sure they're going to do a superb job. Better than me. So, once they release that episode, definitely check that out. Also, if you feel so inclined, I'll put links in the description page. Join my Facebook group, and I'll also link my Twitter, and you can join if you want to talk. Just be civil. We don't have to agree, but let's be civil. And anyways, until next time.
Ain't no motherfucker in this world could do it like me. Open up your eyes and insert a little everything.